Captain Lee Hanna stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the large window. She had been patrolling this sector for 3 months now, and everything had been quiet. The peace treaty between humans and the Apex had held strong for 300 years. Nobody expected that to change. "Captain, we're getting strange readings from the outer colonies," said Lieutenant Pact from his station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as he tried to make sense of the data coming through. Hanna walked over to look at his screen. The numbers didn't make sense. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist were appearing all over human space. "Are you sure these readings are correct?" "Yes, ma'am, and they're getting stronger." Suddenly, the communication system crackled to life. Commander Kim So-ra's voice filled the bridge, but it was broken and filled with static. "All human fleets. Under attack. Zaphiran ships everywhere. The treaty is broken." The transmission cut out completely. Hanna felt her blood turn cold. The Zaphirians had always been a minor species, content to stay in their small corner of the galaxy. They had never shown any interest in challenging the major powers. "Sir, look at this," called out Engineer Choi Min from the sensor station. On the main screen, dozens of ships appeared out of nowhere. They came through tiers in space itself, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports already charging. Battle. "Stations," Hanna shouted. "All hands prepare for combat." The first wave of Zaphiran ships opened fire before her crew could even respond. Bright energy beams cut through space, striking the human patrol ships with deadly accuracy. Hanna watched in horror as 3 of her escort vessels exploded in balls of fire. "How did they get so close without us detecting them?" she demanded. "They're using some kind of new technology," Pact replied, his voice shaking. "Our sensors can't track them properly." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On the Apex homeworld, War Master Velthar was in his meditation chamber when the attack began. The ancient biomechanical being felt the death of his people through the neural network that connected all Apex. His crystalline city shook as Zaphiran bombers dropped their deadly cargo from above. The living buildings screamed as they died, their biomechanical systems failing under the assault. Velthar had lived for over 800 years, but he had never felt such coordinated destruction. "My lord," his aide Krelvan rushed into the chamber. "The outer colonies are gone, they hit everything at once." Velthar's sensor tendrils writhed with anger. "Impossible. The Zaphirians lack the resources for such an attack." "Not anymore. They've united half the galaxy against us. Every minor species that ever feared humans and Apex is fighting alongside them." Back in human space, Hanna's ship shook under enemy fire. Her crew fought back desperately, but they were outnumbered 5-1. The Zaphirians had clearly been planning this attack for years, maybe decades. "Captain, we're getting reports from all over human space." Radio operator Han Su called out. "Earth is under siege. Mars colony has gone dark. The mining stations in the outer rim are being destroyed one by one." Hanna closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process the scale of the disaster. The Zaphirians hadn't just broken the peace treaty. They had used the 300 years of peace to study their enemies, to learn their weaknesses, to build alliances with every species that resented human and Apex dominance. "Ma'am, something's happening," Sergeant O'Day pointed to the tactical display. Large signature coming through hyperspace. On the screen, a massive ship emerged from the quantum tunnel. But this wasn't a Zaphiran vessel. The organic curves and biomechanical design could only belong to one species. "That's an Apex dreadnought," whispered Lieutenant Yoon Jae. "What's Hart doing in human space?" The giant ship was badly damaged. Its living hull was bleeding some kind of luminescent fluid, and several of its biomechanical arms hung limp and broken. Behind it, a pack of Zaphiran hunters emerged from hyperspace, their weapons charging for the kill. Hanna made a decision that went against 3 centuries of military protocol. "All ships protect that Apex vessel. Do not let the Zaphirians destroy it." Her crew looked at her in shock. Humans and Apex had been enemies for so long that helping them seemed impossible. But Hanna understood something that her officers didn't yet grasp. The old rules no longer applied. The Zaphirians had changed everything. The human fleet moved to intercept the Zaphiran hunters. In the confusion of battle, the Apex dreadnought managed to escape deeper into human territory. Both species had suffered terrible losses in the first wave of attacks, but something else had been born in the flames of betrayal. As the battle raged around them, Hana received a message on an encrypted channel. The harmonic tones could only come from an Apex throat. "Human captain," the voice said slowly. "We request sanctuary. The word brings shame to my people, but survival demands we put aside old hatreds." Hana looked at the burning remains of her home system and made a choice that would change the galaxy forever. "Follow us to New Geneva Station. We have much to discuss." For the first time in 300 years, humans and Apex would sit at the same table not as enemies but as allies against a common threat. The docking bay of New Geneva Station had never seen anything like this. Captain Lee Hana walked slowly through the corridors, her boots echoing against the metal walls. Behind her, a squad of Marines followed, their weapons ready but not raised. Today they would meet their oldest enemies face to face. The Apex dreadnought had limped into the station 12 hours ago, its biomechanical hull still bleeding that strange glowing fluid. The ship was alive in ways that human technology could never match, and even damaged. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Park Tay as they approached the meeting room. 300 years of war doesn't just disappear because we have a common enemy." Hana paused at the door. "The Zaphirians destroyed half our fleet in one day, Tay. If we're going to survive this, we need all the help we can get." She pressed the button and the door slid open. The room beyond was dimly lit, designed for diplomatic meetings between different species. But nothing could have prepared the humans for what they saw. War Master Velthar stood nearly 3 meters tall in the center of the room. His biomechanical body was a mixture of living tissue and crystalline technology that pulsed with soft light. Sensor tendrils moved slowly from his elongated skull, tasting the air and reading the emotions of everyone present. Behind him stood 2 other Apex warriors, their smaller forms still intimidating to human eyes. One of them, Krelvan, had scars across his carapace that spoke of many battles. The other, a female named Zara Lynn, watched the humans with bright golden eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Lee." Velthar's voice filled the room with harmonic tones that made the walls vibrate slightly. "Thank you for granting us sanctuary. These words taste like poison to my people. But desperate times require desperate choices." Hana stepped forward, fighting every instinct that told her to draw her weapon. "War Master Velthar, your reputation precedes you. I've read the battle reports from the Centauri campaign, as I have read yours from the Kepler defense. You fought well for a young species." Engineer Choi Min activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Star maps appeared showing the current state of the galaxy. Red markers indicated Zaphirian controlled systems, and there were far too many of them. "This is what we're facing," Hana said, gesturing to the display. "They hit us simultaneously across 12 sectors. Earth's orbital defenses are holding, but barely." "Your homeworld?" Velthar's tendrils drooped slightly. "The crystal cities burn. 3 million of my people died in the first hour. The Zaphirians used weapons we had never seen before, technology that should not exist." Krelvan stepped forward, his scarred carapace gleaming under the lights. "They had help, Captain. Our intelligence networks detected ships from at least 20 different species in their attack fleets. The Regelians, the Centauran Brotherhood, even the peaceful Altarians." "How is that possible?" asked Lieutenant Yoon Jae. "Half of those species barely have interstellar travel." Zara Lynn spoke for the first time, her voice softer than her male companions but no less commanding. "Fear is a powerful motivator. The Zaphirians convinced them that humans and Apex would eventually conquer the entire galaxy. They painted us as tyrants who needed to be stopped." Radio operator Han Su looked up from his communications console. "Captain, we're receiving reports from our surviving colonies. The Zaphirians are broadcasting propaganda across all frequencies. They're calling this the War of Liberation." Hana studied the star map more carefully. The Zaphirian strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. They had used the 3 centuries of peace to study both humans and Apex, learning their strengths and weaknesses. More importantly, they had convinced dozens of smaller species to join their cause. "They know how we fight," she said slowly. "Our tactics, our technology, our protocols. They've been watching us for decades." "Centuries," corrected Velthar. "My intelligence core found evidence of Zaphiran spies dating back 200 years. They have been planning this war since before any of us were born." Sergeant O'Day had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. "With respect, Captain, how do we know we can trust them? This could be an elaborate trap." The tension in the room increased immediately. The Apex warriors shifted slightly, their biomechanical systems humming with barely contained energy. For a moment, it seemed like the old hostilities might resurface, but Velthar raised one of his primary arms, and his warriors relaxed. "Your soldier speaks wisdom. Trust is not given freely between our species. It must be earned through blood and sacrifice." "Then we'll earn it," Hana said firmly. "The Zaphirians have made one critical mistake. They studied us as separate enemies, not as potential allies." She walked to the star map and pointed to a system on the edge of Zaphirian space. "Intelligence reports indicate they have a major supply depot here. Lightly defended, but strategically important. If we hit it together, we can test whether this alliance has any chance of working." Velthar's sensor tendrils writhed as he considered the proposal. "A joint operation. My people and yours fighting side by side instead of against each other. The enemy of my enemy is my friend," quoted Engineer Choi Min quietly. "No," said Hana, looking directly at the Apex War Master. "We're not friends. We may never be friends, but we can be something more important right now. We can be partners in survival." Velthar extended one of his biomechanical hands toward the human captain. "Then let us forge this partnership in fire and blood, Captain Lee. The galaxy will learn what happens when apex predators hunt together instead of apart." The transport ship moved silently through space toward the Zaphirian supply depot. Inside the cramped cargo hold, two groups of warriors sat facing each other in an atmosphere thick with tension. On one side, 12 human Marines checked their weapons and equipment. On the other side, 6 Apex bio-warriors performed their pre-battle rituals. Sergeant O'Day looked across at the alien creatures and wondered if this mission would end with them fighting each other, instead of the enemy. The Apex warrior directly across from him was called Krell Von, and his scarred carapace told the story of many battles. When their eyes met, neither looked away. 5 minutes to drop zone," announced the pilot over the intercom. Lieutenant Park, Tay activated the holographic display showing their target. The Zaphirian depot was built into an asteroid, with multiple docking bays and defensive positions. Intelligence suggested it was lightly guarded, but everyone knew intelligence could be wrong. "Remember the plan?" O'Day told his squad. "We take the main entrance while our Apex friends go through the maintenance tunnels. Once inside, we coordinate through the comm system." Krellvan's translator device made clicking sounds as he spoke. "Your tactics are interesting. Apex normally prefer direct assault. And that's probably why the Zaphirians are ready for you," replied Marine Kim Jin. "They've studied your fighting style for centuries." The Apex warrior's golden eyes flashed with something that might have been anger or amusement. "Perhaps, but have they studied what happens when our styles combine?" The transport shuddered as it approached the asteroid. Through the small windows, they could see the depot's lights twinkling in the darkness. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful. But everyone knew that appearance was deceiving. "Contact in 30 seconds, the pilot warned. Radio operator Hansu made final checks on the communication equipment. This mission would succeed or fail, based on how well the two species could coordinate their attacks. 3 centuries of separate evolution had created very different approaches to warfare. The loading bay doors opened, and both groups moved toward their deployment positions. The humans wore bulky armor and carried projectile weapons designed for sustained firefights. The Apex warriors were sleeker, their biomechanical bodies enhanced for speed and stealth, their weapons grown from their own genetic material. "Good hunting, Sergeant," Krellvan said as he passed O'Day. The formal words were spoken in perfect Korean, which surprised the human. "You too, warrior," O'Day replied, attempting the harmonic tones of the Apex language and failing badly. The deployment was flawless. Human drop pods hit the main docking bay while Apex warriors slipped through service tunnels like living shadows. O'Day's squad moved quickly through the corridors, their boots echoing off metal walls. "Movement ahead," whispered Marine Lee Sue as she peered around a corner. 4 Zaphiran guards at the main control room. The Zaphirians were insect-like creatures with multiple arms and compound eyes. They carried energy weapons that could cut through human armor like paper. Normally, O'Day would call for covering fire and advance under suppression, but today he had other options. "Krelvan, are you in position?" He spoke into his comm unit. "Affirmative, Sergeant. I can see the guards through the ventilation system." "On. My mark dropped behind them. We'll hit from the front." "Understood." O'Day counted down silently, then gave the signal. His Marines opened fire from the corridor while Krelvan dropped from the ceiling like a nightmare made real. The Apex warriors' bioweapons discharged streams of acid that dissolved 2 guards. Instantly, while human bullets cut down the others, the coordination was perfect, and the enemy never had a chance to return fire. "Well done," Krelvan said as he examined the control panels. "Your timing is precise. Your entrance was pretty impressive too," admitted Marine Park Jun. "I've never seen anyone move that fast." They pressed deeper into the facility, and with each encounter, their teamwork improved. Human tactical flexibility combined with Apex biological advantages created something neither species had achieved alone. When Zaphiran reinforcements arrived, they found themselves facing an enemy they had never prepared for. "This is impossible," one of the Zaphiran commanders transmitted, before his position was overrun. "The intelligence report said humans and Apex fight separately." Engineer Choi Min monitored the battle from the command ship orbiting above the asteroid. "Captain, they're working together better than we expected. The enemy is completely confused." "Captain?" Lihana watched the tactical display with growing amazement. Her Marines and Velthar's warriors were covering each other's weaknesses, creating openings the other could exploit. Human technology was enhancing Apex biology in ways that multiplied their effectiveness. "The depot is secure," O'Day's voice crackled over the radio. Krelvan's team found something interesting in the command center. Minutes later, both squads were examining the data they had captured. The information showed the true scope of the Zaphiran conspiracy. Supply routes, troop movements, and alliance agreements with dozens of species painted a picture of careful planning that stretched back decades. "They know everything about us," Park Tae said grimly. "Our ship designs, our tactics, even our psychology." Krelvan's sensor tendrils writhed as he processed the data. "But they studied us as enemies, not as allies. Their models cannot predict what we become when we fight together." Back on the command ship, Captain Hana and War Master Velthar reviewed the mission reports. The depot had been taken with minimal casualties and maximum intelligence gained. More importantly, humans and Apex had proven they could work together. "Your species continues to surprise us, Captain," Velthar said, his harmonic voice carrying what might have been approval. "Perhaps that is why the Zaphirians fear you so much." Hana smiled grimly as she looked at the star maps showing enemy positions. "Then let's give them something really worth fearing. It's time to show the galaxy what Apex predators can accomplish when they hunt as a pack." The battle for Kepler Prime had been raging for 18 days. Captain Lee Hana stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical display as human and Apex ships fought side by side against overwhelming odds. The planet below was home to 3 million civilians, both human families and Apex spawn colonies that had lived in peace for generations. "Enemy reinforcements jumping in from hyperspace," reported Lieutenant Park Tae. His voice was hoarse from days of continuous combat. "Another 40 ships, mostly Zaphiran heavy cruisers." Hana gripped the rail as her ship shook under enemy fire. The joint fleet had been holding the line, but barely. For every Zaphiran ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The enemy had committed everything to this battle, determined to prove that the human Apex alliance could be broken. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from the surface," radio operator Han Su called out. "The evacuation centers are under direct attack." On the main screen, Hana could see the Zaphiran bombers diving toward the planet. Their target wasn't military installations anymore. They were going after the evacuation ships carrying children and civilians to safety. "All fighters, intercept those bombers," she ordered. "Do not let them reach the evacuation zones." War Master Velthar's dreadnought moved alongside her flagship, its biomechanical hull glowing with battle energy. The ancient apex warrior had been fighting for 72 hours straight, using his neural connections to coordinate his fleet while simultaneously directing ground forces. "Captain Lee," his harmonic voice filled her bridge through the communication system. "My biofighters are running low on energy. We need to rotate our combat wings." "Agreed. Pull your squadrons back. My pilots will cover the retreat." What followed was a dance of destruction that had never been seen before in galactic warfare. Human fighters with their mechanical precision covered Apex bioships as they withdrew to regenerate. Then the Apex warriors returned to protect human squadrons as they refueled and rearmed. Engineer Choi Min monitored the battle from his station, his face pale with exhaustion. "Captain, we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. At this rate, we'll be overwhelmed within 6 hours." Hana knew he was right, but she also knew they couldn't retreat. Too many lives depended on holding this system. On the planet, below, human children and Apex spawn were boarding the same evacuation ships, their species united by shared fear and hope. "Sergeant O'Day, report from the surface," she called to the Marine commander who was coordinating ground defenses. "It's bad down here, Captain." O'Day's voice crackled through the static. "But the Apex warriors are incredible. I've never seen anything like the way they fight when they're protecting their young." The sergeant was positioned at Evacuation Site 7, where thousands of civilians waited for transport to safety. Beside him, Krelvan and his bio-warriors had formed a defensive perimeter that the Zaphirians couldn't break. "The enemy is using chemical weapons," Krelvan reported, his translator clicking rapidly. "Illegal under galactic law, but effective against both our species." O'Day watched as Apex spawn and human children ran together toward the evacuation ships. The sight would have been impossible just months ago, but war had changed everything. When survival was at stake, old prejudices seemed meaningless. A Zaphirian bomber broke through the fighter screen and dove toward the evacuation site. O'Day's Marines opened fire with everything they had, but their weapons couldn't reach the high-altitude target. That's when Krelvan did something extraordinary. The Apex warrior launched himself into the air using his biomechanical enhancements, intercepting the bomber with his own body. The explosion killed him instantly, but it also destroyed the enemy aircraft before it could drop its deadly cargo. "Krelvan is down," O'Day reported, his voice heavy with grief. "He saved about 2,000 civilians with that move." Back in space, the battle was reaching its climax. Captain Hana watched as Velthar's dreadnought positioned itself between the enemy fleet and the evacuation transports. The massive bioship was taking enormous damage, but it refused to yield. "War Master, your ship can't take much more punishment," she warned. "My people are on those transports, Captain, as are yours. I will not abandon them." The words hit Hana like a physical blow. For the first time, an Apex leader had referred to human civilians as his people too. The alliance had become something deeper than anyone had expected. "All ships, cover the War Master," she ordered. "Form up on the dreadnought. We make our stand here." What followed was the most vicious fighting the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships and Apex biovessels fought with desperate courage, buying time for the evacuation fleet to escape. Ship after ship was destroyed, but the line held. Finally, after 18 days of continuous battle, the last evacuation transport jumped to hyperspace. 3 million civilians were safe, but the cost had been terrible. Half the joint fleet was destroyed or badly damaged. In the aftermath, Hana found herself in the medical bay of Velthar's ship. The War Master was recovering from injuries that would have killed a human, his biomechanical system slowly regenerating damaged tissue. "We saved them," she said simply. Velthar's sensor tendrils moved weakly as he responded. "Yes, but at what cost? Krelvan was like a son to me. Your Lieutenant Yoon died protecting my spawn. The lines between our species grow blurred." He extended a biomechanical tendril toward her. "Share our grief, Captain. Let our losses become one." The neural connection was unlike anything Hana had ever experienced. For a moment, she felt the apex understanding of loss, the deep emotional bonds that connected their species. She understood that they weren't just military allies anymore. They had become something new, forged in the crucible of shared sacrifice. When the connection ended, both leaders sat in silence, mourning their dead and contemplating what they had become. The old galaxy was dying, and from its ashes something unprecedented was being born. The Nexus system had once been the proudest achievement of galactic civilization. Here, 300 years ago, the great powers had signed the accords that brought peace to the galaxy. Now it would witness the birth of something entirely new. Captain Lee Hana stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the massive enemy fleet assembled before them. The Zaphiran collective had gathered everything they had for this final battle. Ships from dozens of species filled the space around the ancient diplomatic station, their weapons trained on the much smaller human apex force. "Final count, Lieutenant?" she asked Park Tae, though she already knew the answer would be grim. "They outnumber us 10-1, Captain. Every species that ever feared human or apex dominance is out there. Even some we thought were our friends." Beside her flagship, War Master Velthar's dreadnought pulsed with biomechanical energy. The massive living ship had grown new weapons during their journey here. Adapting to the threat they would face, human engineers had worked alongside apex biotechnicians to create something that neither species could have achieved alone. "All ships, this is Captain Lee." Hana spoke into the fleet communication system. "Today we don't fight as humans or apex, we fight as partners. Show them what apex predators can accomplish when they hunt together." The response came not just from human voices, but from the harmonic tones of apex warriors across the combined fleet. For the first time in galactic history, two apex species were truly united in purpose. Sergeant O'Day prepared his Marines for boarding actions while apex warrior Zara Lynn checked her bioweapons. The two had fought together through a dozen battles since Kepler Prime, and their partnership had become legendary among both species. "Ready, my friend?" Zara Lynn asked, her golden eyes gleaming with battle anticipation. "Always ready when you're watching my back," O'Day replied with a grin. The Zaphiran fleet moved first, launching thousands of missiles and energy beams toward the smaller Allied force. But something unexpected happened. The human apex ships didn't scatter or form traditional defensive lines. Instead, they moved like a single organism, each vessel covering another's weaknesses while maximizing their combined strengths. Engineer Choi Min monitored the battle from his enhanced station, his systems now linked directly to apex biocomputers. "Captain, the enemy is having trouble targeting us. Our new movement patterns are confusing their fire control systems." "That's because they studied us separately," Hana replied. "They never imagined we could fight as one entity." Across the battlefield, Zaphiran commanders were discovering the truth of her words. Their battle plans had been perfect for fighting, humans or apex individually, but the combined force was something completely new. Human tactical flexibility merged with apex biological adaptation created a fighting style that rewrote the rules of space combat. "Impossible," transmitted Admiral Zekthar, the Zaphiran fleet commander. "Their coordination exceeds all projections." His heavy cruisers fired their most powerful weapons at what appeared to be a vulnerable human destroyer. But at the last second, an apex bioship flowed around the smaller vessel like liquid metal, absorbing the damage and returning fire with weapons that had literally grown in response to the threat. Radio operator Hansu coordinated communications between the Allied ships, his voice mixing with harmonic apex tones as the two species shared tactical information in real time. "Captain, enemy formation is beginning to break up. They can't adapt to our combined tactics." The battle raged for hours, but gradually the tide turned. Every time the Zaphirians thought they understood the Allied strategy, it changed. Human innovation unleashed apex biotechnology in ways that multiplied their effectiveness beyond anything either species had achieved alone. Lieutenant Yoon Jae, who had survived the Battle of Kepler Prime, now commanded a mixed squadron of human fighters and Apex bioships. All units follow my lead. We're going after their command ship. The squadron moved through the enemy formation like a school of deadly fish, each pilot covering another regardless of species. When Zaphiran interceptors tried to stop them, they found themselves facing an enemy that fought with both mechanical precision and organic adaptability. On the enemy flagship, Admiral Zekthar watched his carefully planned battle dissolve into chaos. How are they doing this? Our intelligence said they were still enemies. Sir, his aide reported nervously, perhaps we were wrong about their relationship. Perhaps we created the very thing we sought to prevent. The Admiral's compound eyes widened as he understood the horrible truth. By forcing the two apex species, together the Zaphirians had created something far more dangerous than either could have been alone. All ships retreat, he ordered, but it was too late. Hana and Velthar had anticipated this moment. Their combined fleet moved like a closing fist, surrounding the enemy before they could escape. The biomechanical dreadnought and the human flagship fought side by side, their weapons synchronized to create overlapping fields of destruction. Zaphirian fleet, this is Captain Lee Hana, she broadcast on all frequencies. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. The response came reluctantly from Admiral Zekthar. We surrender. As the Zaphirian ships powered down their weapons, Hana felt a hand on her shoulder. Velthar had come aboard her ship, his biomechanical form somehow managing to look both alien and familiar. It is finished, Captain. The old order dies today. Around them, the surviving ships of dozens of species watched in silence. The age of minor powers challenging the apex species was over. In its place, a new reality was emerging. Humans and Apex had proven that cooperation was stronger than competition, that unity was more powerful than rivalry. What happens now? Asked Engineer Choi Min Hana, looked at the ancient diplomatic station where new accords would need to be written. Now we build something better, not just for humans and Apex, but for everyone willing to join us. The galaxy would never be the same. Two apex predators had become partners, and their combined strength would reshape civilization itself.